I have heard Ryan Pesch speak at Hortonite and several other horticulture meetings. I thought he was very knowledgeable about business and vegetables. Then I found out that he has a place called Lida Farm where he grows and markets lots of vegetables. Well, I had to find out more, so I called Ryan and he said we could come for a visit. Thanks, Ryan, for letting us come out and see your operation and learning more.
Yeah, Mariette, love to have you. Thanks for coming.
Tell me, how did you get started and what's your background?
My background's kind of weird for horticulture. I'm a Gusty grad from Gustavus Adolphus. And I don't know, I studied classics, so Greek, Latin, stuff like this. But growing up in a rural area, I just sort of had an interest in farming, didn't grow up farming at all. So I grew up in East Grand Forks as a city kid. Just kind of had an interest in farming and kind of food based on my interactions with the food co-op in St. Peter, and said it was something I wanted to explore. So after I graduated from Gustavus, I spent 2 years apprenticing on a vegetable operation in the St. Croix River Valley.
What is a CSA?
Yeah, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So the whole idea is somebody who's become a member of the farm for the season. And then what they do is they pay up front for a membership, and then as return, they get kind of what's in season each week. The whole idea behind the supported part is like they're supporting the farm and kind of taking the risk with the farm over the course of the season. So my claim to fame is over now 20 seasons, I've never missed a CSA box, right? We've done 16 boxes or 16 weeks for 20 years now. But there certainly have been some boxes that saw a little bit of hail, right? So maybe a certain crop didn't look that good or didn't get in the box. But for the most part, it's this idea like the members of the farm are kind of in it for the season with the farmer, and then together we're supporting one another.
How did you end up here by Lida Farm?
After I graduated from graduate school, after a little time in the Twin Cities when I started farming, I got a job with Extension and I got a job in community economic development. So my day job took me to Fergus Falls in Otter Tail County. I had planned that whole time to do commercial vegetable production because, after 3 years of doing it, I was like, well, I'm really into this. I want to keep doing it. So we found this one spot, 20-acre farmstead in northern Otter Tail County, and we've just been here ever since. So that's kind of what brought me to Otter Tail, and, we just dug in and been growing since.
How many people work here at the farm?
It changes year by year. I typically have one apprentice a year. So for the last 8 years, I've had somebody that typically lives and works with me on farm. Even if they're living and working here, it's not a full-time job. There's typically maybe 20 to 30 hours a week is what somebody works for me as. They live in the little intern house over here. Now this year, we're a little scaled back from where we have been previously. So I have one person that works with me generally 1 day a week, and another person that sort of helps out every so often, other than our family. So this year, my daughter, who's 18, she's on the payroll this year, if you will. So she's working with me maybe, 12, 15 hours a week kind of thing.
Ryan, how do you know how much to grow?
It really comes down to my training as an apprentice. You kind of get a sense of the scale, right? You get a sense of the number of plants, the number of acres, the amount of seed. If we're doing beans and you need to fill 70 boxes, what does that look like? And so just after doing that for 2 years, I had a really good sense about kind of the scale, right? So if they were at 100 shares and I need to scale it down to 40, I just take what they were doing generally and brought it down to 40%, right? And so, and then after a while, you just sort of get used to it. You try to go a little excess, but you don't want to go a lot excess. Over time, you just get better at it.
Do you have a set amount for a share, or can people get like a half share or 2 shares if they have company coming?
No, it's really set. I do a set box. Some people do half shares and full shares. What I do is I do full shares where you're getting something every single week, and then I have an every other week share. And so on my end, it becomes much easier, right? So a box each week is a consistent box.
When do you start the plants?
Well, we will start basically herbs and onions the very beginning of March. those just take time, right? We're talking 10 to 12 weeks before we're planting them out, you know, and a lot of herbs can take a very long time. You think of a rosemary. I mean, you're starting a rosemary by seed. You know, even starting it that early, we still have rosemary plants. They're like little baby plants. Like somebody in California would laugh at our rosemary. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's just starting. But, you know, a lot of the kind of the main crops, say, think of like the tomatoes or peppers or something. You know, I mean, we're doing those. We're starting those peppers 8 weeks before we plant them out. And we typically look at a June 1 plant date. I mean, and it might be different, like in southwest Minnesota, sure, and southern part of the state. But we always look at warm season crops right around June 1, just to be safe.
Do you have a greenhouse that you start plants in?
Yep, we got one greenhouse, kind of a mainframe greenhouse, 4-season thing. We actually do some winter greens in that we'll start transplants in. In off-season, we will grow winter greens in them, in that same greenhouse as well. Other than that, then we have 2 high tunnels, or we can do some early planting for some warm season crops, but it's just the one greenhouse is kind of our starts.
Do you have some things that you direct seed right out into the gardens too?
Oh yeah, you know, all the typical things. I mean, you really need to direct seed a carrot, right? I direct seed beans. But there are certain things that I will, especially on an organic system, if I can transplant it, I will. It's kind of futzy, right? But it allows those plants to just get started that much earlier. We actually did some beets this year in a high tunnel, and it went in the first CSA box. I've never done that before. Worked really great. But otherwise, you know, it's all these, you know, things that you would, like cilantro. And I mean, I don't know how to do it any other way. We'll direct seed those.
We're here early in the season, so what are some of the crops that you have now?
Yeah, I mean, all the ones you'd typically think of, right? Radishes, early greens, lettuce, salad mix. The greens like a kale and a Swiss chard are all coming in. This week, week 2, we picked the first zucchini. So I mean, that's the first warm season crop. A lot of them are those cooler season crops you'd expect.
So do you get them or pack them out here, or where do you do that?
Yeah, we do it's all about harvesting, getting them into crates and harvest bins, and then we bring them up to the packing shed. And that's kind of where a lot of the magic happens.